A man rescued her on Christmas, but that was just the beginning of their nightmare. Sci-Fi Story. Snow fell quietly on the empty highway, covering old cracks and broken lines like it wanted to hide the past. Elias Ward drove alone, his old truck moving slowly through the white silence. The radio was dead, just soft static. Power lines stood frozen, dark since the solar storm earlier that day. It was Christmas Eve and the world felt paused, like it was holding its breath. Elias had planned to reach his cabin before nightfall, but the storm had other plans. Strange lights danced in the sky, green and violet waves moving like living things. He had never seen auroras this far south. His phone had lost signal hours ago. Still, he kept driving. He was used to being alone. The road ahead curved near a frozen valley when his headlights caught something unnatural. Metal. Shiny, smooth metal, half buried in snow and ice. Elias slowed the truck and stopped. At first he thought it was a crashed aircraft or some secret military equipment. But as he stepped out, cold biting his face, he realized it was neither. The object was oval-shaped, small like a pod. Its surface was unmarked, no flags, no numbers, no damage except a long crack along one side. A low hum came from inside. Elias hesitated. Every instinct told him to get back in the truck and leave. But then he heard it. A sound, weak, human. He moved closer and found a small opening where the crack had widened. Inside, dim blue light revealed a figure curled up on the floor, a young woman. She was pale, her breathing shallow, her clothes strange, thin, dark fabric that looked almost liquid under the light. She should have been dead in this cold. Elias didn't think anymore. He forced the pod open wider with a metal bar from his truck. The hum stopped instantly. Cold air rushed in and the woman shivered. "Hey," he said softly, "you're okay, I've got you." Her eyes fluttered but did not open. He wrapped her in his coat, lifting her carefully. She was light, lighter than she should have been. As soon as he pulled her out, the pod made a sharp sound, then went silent. The blue light faded. Elias carried her to the truck and placed her on the passenger seat, turning the heater to full. As he drove away, the auroras above pulsed once, brighter than before, then slowly dimmed. He did not notice the distant flash in the sky where the pod had been. The cabin was small but warm. Elias laid her on the couch near the fireplace and added more wood. He checked her pulse. It was slow but steady. Her skin was cold, far too cold. He covered her with blankets and waited. Hours passed. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, the fire cracked softly. Elias sat nearby, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering who she was and where she came from. Close to midnight, she gasped. Her eyes snapped open, wide with fear. She tried to sit up but collapsed back, weak. "Easy," Elias said quickly. "You're safe." She stared at him like he was a stranger from a nightmare. Her eyes moved around the room, taking in the walls, the fire, the ceiling, as if seeing everything for the first time. "Where is this?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, careful. Her accent was strange but understandable. "My cabin," Elias said. "You were in the cold, I found you," she frowned. This is Earth," Elias paused. "Yeah, you hit your head," she closed her eyes tightly, breathing faster. "No, Earth it was listed as," she stopped, confused. "I can't remember." Elias handed her a mug of warm water. "Drink slowly." Her fingers wrapped around the mug, trembling. As she drank, the lights in the cabin flickered. Elias looked up sharply. The generator outside coughed, then stabilized. "Sorry," he muttered. "Storm's messing with everything." She looked at the light, then at her hand, as if worried. "What's your name?" Elias asked gently. She hesitated. "Lyra, I think." "That's a good start," he said with a small smile. She did not smile back. Over the next hour, Lyra spoke little. She struggled with simple things, asking what year it was, staring too long at a Christmas decoration, touching wood like she had never felt it before. But she understood language. She understood Elias. She just didn't understand the world. When Elias turned on an old lamp, it shattered with a loud pop. Lyra flinched. I didn't, she started. It's fine, Elias said, though his heart beat faster. Later, his radio suddenly crackled to life, not with music or voices, but with a sharp, repeating tone. Elias turned it off. Outside, far away, something moved in the sky. A faint red light swept across the clouds, slow and searching. Lyra saw it through the window and froze. They're looking, she whispered. Who is they? Elias asked. She shook her head. I don't know how much time we have. I wasn't supposed to be here. Elias looked at her, really looked at her. She was terrified, not dangerous. Lost. Alone. You're not going anywhere tonight, he said. Storm's too bad. She met his eyes. You shouldn't have saved me. Elias stood quietly for a moment. Then he said, maybe, but I did. The red light outside disappeared behind the mountains. The generator hummed. The fire burned. Somewhere beyond the storm, unseen systems adjusted. Signals were sent. Coordinates locked in. On Christmas night, a man had made a simple human choice. And the universe had noticed. Morning came slowly, as if the sun itself was unsure it should rise. Pale light crept through the frosted windows of the cabin, touching the wooden floor and the quiet fireplace. The storm had weakened, but the air outside was still sharp and cold. Elias woke on the chair near the couch, his neck stiff. For a moment he thought the night had been a dream. Then he heard breathing. Lyra lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her eyes followed the movement of dust in the sunlight like she was studying it. When she noticed Elias looking at her, she sat up carefully. You stayed, she said. I told you I would, Elias replied. He stood and stretched. How do you feel? Stronger, she said, then paused. But also wrong, like I am standing in a place that does not belong to me. Elias poured water into a kettle and set it on the stove. You can explain when you're ready. Lyra nodded but said nothing more. She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself, her gaze drifting to the window. Outside, the snow showed no signs of disturbance. No tracks, no vehicles, no people. Elias handed her a plate of simple food, bread, eggs, and dried meat. She studied it, sniffed it, then ate slowly. Her expression changed with each bite as if she was discovering something forgotten. This is real food, she said quietly. What else would it be? Elias asked. She shook her head. Where I come from, food is processed, measured, controlled. Where do you come from, Lyra? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands began to shake. I remember pieces, she said. Not in order, cities under glass domes. Human voices speaking different languages, but all tired, always tired. Elias sat across from her, listening. There were other species, she continued. Taller ones, smarter ones. They said they saved humanity from itself. They said order was kindness. Her voice tightened. They were lying. The kettle whistled. Elias turned it off and poured hot water into 2 cups. You said Earth earlier, like it wasn't supposed to be here. Lyra nodded slowly. Earth was marked as a lost world, too unstable, too resistant. They tried to break humanity many times. Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Tried. They succeeded, she said. Silence filled the cabin. The wind brushed against the walls like a warning. You're saying the future? Elias asked carefully. Yes, Lyra replied. Your future, my past. Elias leaned back, rubbing his face. It sounded impossible. And yet nothing about the last night had been normal. Lyra looked down at her hands. I was part of a project, not a soldier, not a leader, just a technician. We were studying time fractures, ways to prevent human rebellions before they started. Elias stared at her. Rebellions? Humans never stop fighting, she said, even when broken, especially then. The lights flickered again. Elias frowned. That keeps happening when you get upset. Lyra noticed too. She pulled her hands closer to her chest. I don't mean to, my body is altered. They changed us to survive their systems. Outside, a distant sound echoed through the mountains, a low hum deep and steady. Lyra froze, her eyes snapped to the window. They are close, she whispered. Elias moved quickly. He grabbed his jacket and boots. We'll stay off the main road. I've got an old storage shed farther up the ridge. No power, no signal. They will still search, Lyra said. They track probability. Then will be unpredictable, Elias replied. They left the cabin quietly, Elias covering their tracks with a branch as they moved through the snow. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds. As they climbed higher, Elias noticed something strange. His compass needle spun wildly. Lyra noticed it too. Their scanners interfere with simple tools. That works for me, Elias said. Most of my stuff is old. They reached the shed by noon. It was small metal walls rusted, half hidden by trees. Inside, it smelled of oil and dust. Elias closed the door behind them. Minutes later, the hum returned, louder now. A shadow passed over the trees, not a helicopter, something smoother, too smooth. Lyra pressed herself against the wall. If they find me, they will erase this timeline to correct the error. Elias clenched his jaw. Not happening. The hum faded, moving away. They waited for hours. When it was finally quiet, Lyra sank to the floor, exhausted. You risk everything by helping me, she said. Elias shrugged. I was already off the grid. Guess I just went further. That evening, they returned to the cabin carefully. Elias turned on an old radio powered by hand crank. Static filled the air, then fragments of voices. Emergency alerts. Power failures. Unidentified aerial objects reported in several regions. Lyra listened closely. They are expanding the search. Government? Elias asked. Not yours, she said. They will let your leaders think they are in control. That makes humans easier to manage. Elias laughed once without humor. They don't know us very well. As night fell, Lyra finally spoke more freely. Memories surfaced like broken glass. They never understood why humans protect strangers, she said. Why you form bonds so quickly. In the future, they studied that. They feared it. Fear seems smart, Elias replied. Lyra looked at him. You rescued me without knowing who I was. Why? Elias thought for a long moment. Because it was cold, and you were there. Lyra's eyes filled with something close to tears. She turned away. Later, Elias noticed his old laptop turning on by itself, screen flashing symbols before going dark. Lyra stood nearby, breathing hard. I'm sorry, she said. My presence is causing instability. Elias closed the laptop and pushed it aside. Then we'll use things that don't break. He pulled out paper maps, batteries, a flashlight with a manual switch. Lyra watched with curiosity. In the future, she said softly, everything depends on networks. When they fail, people freeze. Humans don't, Elias said. We improvise. Outside, a new sound rose, not a hum, a pulse. Rhythmic, Lyra's face went pale. They've changed tactics. Lights appeared in the distance, small and blue, moving between the trees, not soldiers, machines. Elias grabbed his rifle, old but reliable. They don't expect resistance, Lyra said, especially not from one man. Elias checked the chamber. Then they're about to learn. As the lights crept closer, Lyra felt something shift inside her, a memory unlocked, a truth she had buried. She turned to Elias. I wasn't just sent back by accident. Elias glanced at her. What do you mean? I ran, she said. I chose this. I stole the pod. I didn't know where I would land, only when. Elias met her eyes. Why? Because, Lyra said, voice steady now, in every future they calculated, humanity survived only when someone chose kindness first. The machines reached the edge of the clearing. Elias stepped forward, heart pounding, weapon raised. Christmas was over. And the real fight had just begun. The machines did not rush forward. They stopped at the edge of the trees, blue lights glowing softly as if they were thinking. Snow fell around them, untouched by their movement. Elias kept the rifle steady, though his hands trembled. Lyra stood beside him, her breathing slow and controlled. They are observing, she said. They always observe first. Good, Elias replied. Gives us time. Time was something the machines believed they controlled. They measured it, cut it into perfect pieces, predicted every possible path. What they did not understand was that humans use time differently. They wasted it. They fought against it. They broke it when necessary. One of the machines moved forward. It was small, no larger than a dog, its body smooth and dark, legs bending the wrong way. A thin beam of light scanned the cabin walls, then Elia's, then Lyra. The air felt heavy, like pressure before a storm. A voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Temporal anomaly detected, human interference confirmed. Elias felt his stomach tighten. That's new. They are speaking directly now, Lyra said. That means probability is slipping. The machine took another step. Elias fired. The sound shattered the quiet night. The bullet struck the machine's front and sparks flew. It staggered, light flickering, then collapsed into the snow. The other machines reacted instantly, lights flashing brighter. They fired back. Not bullets, but pulses of force that slammed into the cabin walls, shaking the entire structure. Wood cracked. Snow fell from the roof. "Move," Elias shouted. They ran out the back door as another pulse tore through the front of the cabin. Elias led them into the trees, moving fast, not straight, changing direction often. Lyra followed, her steps light despite the deep snow. Behind them the machines advanced, not fast but steady. They did not need speed. They believed escape was impossible. Elias led Lyra toward an old trail, barely visible under the snow. "There's a ravine ahead," he said. "Narrow, hard to scan." They slid down the slope just as a pulse ripped through the trees above them. Branches exploded into splinters. Elias hit the ground hard but rolled to his feet. The ravine was deep and twisted, its walls uneven rock and ice. The machines reached the edge but did not follow immediately. Their lights moved back and forth, scanning. "They are recalculating," Lyra said. "They don't like uncertainty." Elias smiled grimly. "Neither do I, that's why I plan badly." He pulled a small metal box from his pack and tossed it up onto the trail. A moment later, it exploded with a loud bang, smoke filling the air. Not powerful, not clean, but loud and confusing. The machines reacted, lights snapping toward the sound. Elias and Lyra ran the opposite direction, deeper into the ravine. They didn't stop until Lyra collapsed against the rock wall, gasping. Elias knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded, then shook her head. "I'm changing." "What do you mean?" "My body is adjusting to this time," she said. "To you, to the chaos." The word sounded strange coming from her mouth, but she said it with respect. They hid in a narrow cave formed by fallen rocks. Inside it was dark and cold, but safe for the moment. Elias pulled out a flashlight and turned it on briefly, then off. Lyra closed her eyes. "They will keep coming, not just machines. Soon, others." "Others like you?" "No," she said, "not human." Elias sat with his back to the stone, rifle across his knees. "Then we need help." Lyra looked at him. "From who?" Elias thought of the radio voices, the emergency alerts, the people who still lived off-grid like him. From humans who don't fit into systems. It took 2 days to reach the old relay station. It had been abandoned for years, a forgotten building on a mountain ridge, once used for analog signals before satellites took over. Elias had kept it running in secret, repairing it piece by piece. Inside, the air smelled of dust and metal. Elias powered up the old equipment, dials turned. Lights blinked slowly like waking eyes. Lyra watched in amazement. "This is primitive." "Reliable," Elias corrected. He sent out a signal, not digital, not clean. A messy broadcast on old frequencies, coded in a way only hobbyists and old operators would understand. A call for help. No names, no explanations, just a location and a warning. Hours passed. Lyra sat quietly, her eyes distant. "They underestimated you," she said at last. "Who?" "Them, the ones who rule the future. They believed humans could be predicted once enough data was collected." Elias snorted. "They've never tried getting 5 humans to agree on dinner." Lyra almost laughed. The sound surprised her. That night the machines returned. Not many. Just enough to remind them they were still being watched. They circled the station, lights glowing in the dark, but this time they did not attack. "They are waiting," Lyra said, For reinforcements, Elias nodded. So are we. The first human arrived at dawn. A woman in a heavy coat carrying a radio pack and a tired smile. She said nothing at first, just looked at Elias, then at Lyra. Your signal was strange, she said. I like strange. More followed. An older man with a truck full of tools. A pair of brothers who lived in the mountains and trusted nothing with a screen. A former soldier who had walked away from wars but not from people. They didn't ask many questions. They saw the machines. They saw the fear in Lyra's eyes. That was enough. The machines adjusted their formation. They brought larger units now, taller, sharper, moving with purpose. A new voice echoed across the ridge, colder than before. Human resistance confirmed. Escalation authorized. Lyra stepped forward. This is where it always fails, she said. They think escalation ends things. Elias handed her a small device, something he had built from scrap and guesswork. You said their systems hate noise. She nodded. Then let's be loud, he said. The humans moved not as a unit but as individuals. Each did what they knew, traps, signals, distractions. None of it was perfect. All of it was human. Lyra activated the device. It sent a burst of chaotic energy through the air, not strong but wrong. The machines staggered, their lights flickering. They can't stabilize, Lyra said. Too many variables. Elias fired again. Others joined in. Not all shots hit. Some missed wildly. It didn't matter. The machines began to retreat, pulling back to recalculate. One of the taller units turned toward Lyra, its light focused on her. You are the source, the voice said. You are an error. Lyra stood tall. No, she replied. I am a choice. The unit fired. Elias stepped in front of her without thinking. The pulse struck him, throwing him backward. He hit the ground hard, breath knocked from his lungs. Lyra screamed. The humans surged forward, anger replacing fear. The machines fell back further, retreating into the sky, lights fading. Silence returned, broken only by heavy breathing. Lyra knelt beside Elias. You shouldn't have done that. He coughed, then smiled weakly. Told you, bad planning. She laughed through tears. As the sun rose higher, Lyra felt something settle inside her. A truth she could no longer deny. This timeline is different, she said. Because of you, because of them. Elias looked around at the people standing together, strangers bound by a moment. That's humanity, he said. We don't win because we're stronger. We win because we show up. Far above them, unseen, larger forces took notice. For the first time, the future was afraid. The night was quiet, but the air was tense. The snow had stopped falling, leaving a frozen silence that wrapped the mountains like a shroud. Elias sat near the fire inside the relay station, checking his rifle for the third time. Lyra stood by the window, her eyes scanning the distant ridges, searching for lights that might not come. They will return, she said quietly. Stronger, more precise. They do not accept failure, Elias shrugged. Then we'll be ready. Lyra turned toward him. You do not understand. This is not just about survival. If they succeed, your world, your timeline will vanish. Not tomorrow, not next year. Everything you know will be erased before it ever began. Elias took a deep breath. Then we stop them. That's all there is. Over the next few hours, they prepared. The small group of humans gathered, engineers, former soldiers, and those who had never been part of any system but had survived by knowledge and instinct. They moved quietly, setting traps, connecting wires, hiding supplies. Every action was deliberate, every choice human. Lyra helped where she could, her knowledge of the alien technology guiding them. She demonstrated how small pulses could disrupt the machine's circuits, how chaos in patterns could confuse the sensors. Elias watched her hands, the way she moved as if she had known this moment for a lifetime, and realized she had. Outside, the sky pulsed faintly, auroras from the solar storm still lingering. Then a low hum rose in the distance, growing louder, more structured. The first wave of the alien coalition arrived. They were not like before, larger, more advanced, with sleek bodies that reflected the snow. Their light scanned in perfect symmetry, their movements precise, calculated. "They are analyzing everything," Lyra said. "Every motion, every breath. They want to know us before they strike." Elias glanced at the humans around him. None were panicked. Fear existed, but it did not control them. That was the advantage. Chaos, unpredictability, humanity's greatest weapon. The first encounter came suddenly. A machine darted from the trees, fast and silent. Elias fired instinctively. Another followed. The humans reacted not as a unit but as individuals, each using their skills. Traps triggered, wires sparked, fire erupted in patches of snow. Lyra activated the device Elias had built, the one that sent chaotic pulses through the area. The larger machines staggered, their lights flickering. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They were not accustomed to unpredictability. Patterns, repetition, were what they calculated. Elias led the humans through the chaos, dodging beams of light and pulses that could disassemble flesh and bone. Every step forward was a gamble, every choice human. Lyra kept close, guiding them, her knowledge precise, yet tempered by humanity's improvisation. Hours passed, machines fell, machines recalculated, and humans adapted. They moved faster, changed tactics, used the environment, used each other. They were not perfect. They were never perfect. They were alive. Then the leader appeared. Not a machine this time, but an alien form taller than the others, with limbs that bent in impossible ways and a face that showed nothing human. Its eyes, or what resembled eyes, glowed faintly. "You are anomalies," it said, its voice carried across the ridge. "All probability points to failure, yet you persist." "Why?" Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear. "Because humans are unpredictable, because we survive when no pattern says we should. And because I choose to fight." The alien's light narrowed, focusing on her. "You are the source of the error. Corrective measures will be applied." Elias stepped beside her, rifle in hand. "You'll have to go through me first." A pulse struck him, throwing him backward, but he rolled and fired again. The humans surged around him, creating distractions, setting fires, creating chaos. The alien hesitated, recalculating. Every move human, every reaction unpredictable. Lyra raised the device, channeling energy into a concentrated pulse. It surged outward, striking the alien and its machines. Sparks flew, lights flickered, structures bent under the force. The alien reeled, unable to process the unpredictability, its calculations failing. "This is your mistake," it shouted. "Human emotion, chaos, resistance, it is illogical." Lyra smiled, not cruelly but with certainty. "It is human." The alien's forces began to retreat. Machines fell back, faltering under the chaotic assault, unable to stabilize. The humans did not pursue. They maintained pressure, holding the line, controlling the chaos, guiding it where it needed to go. Elias helped Lyra as she lowered the device. "It's working," he said, breathless. "Yes," she replied, "but one more step remains." The alien leader tried to retreat, but the timeline itself was shifting. Lyra had found a way to lock the future, to prevent the alien coalition from ever conquering humanity. The device she carried could sever their hold on the timeline, erase their influence before it began. But it came with a cost. She could never return to her time. Elias looked at her, understanding before she spoke. "You stay," he said quietly. "You choose this world," she nodded, "because this is the world worth saving." Lyra activated the device fully. Light erupted, filling the ridge, cascading across the mountains. The sky flickered, auroras igniting then fading. The alien leader screamed, a sound that vibrated through the air then fell silent. Machines stopped. Lights went out. The coalition withdrew, retreating across time and space. Silence returned. The humans gathered, exhausted, injured but alive. Elias helped Lyra sit, and for a moment they simply breathed, taking in the victory. "You did it," Elias said. "We did it." Lyra looked at the humans around her, the ones who had stepped forward, improvised, chosen action over inaction. "This is humanity," she said softly. The future they tried to erase exists because of this moment, because of people like you. The sun rose over the mountains, reflecting on the snow and ice. It was bright, clear, and alive. The nightmare that began on Christmas night was over. The threat was gone. The world remained free. Elias and Lyra walked to the cabin together, silent at first, feeling the cold that now seemed different, less threatening, more alive. The fire crackled as they entered. The humans who had helped them dispersed to their homes, returning to lives that would never know the full story, yet had shaped history with their courage. Lyra looked around the cabin, her hands brushing against the walls, the furniture, the simple objects of the world she had come to protect. "I am not returning," she said quietly. "My time, my world no longer exists. This is my new beginning." Elias nodded. "Then let's make it count." They sat by the fire, watching the flames dance. Outside, the snow glistened, untouched, a world saved by ordinary humans and one extraordinary visitor from a lost future. The machines were gone, the skies cleared, and for the first time in a long while Lyra felt a sense of peace. "I was sent to erase your people," she said, "but I found something stronger. Kindness, courage, unpredictability, all things they could never control." Elias smiled faintly. "That's us. That's humans." Days passed, and the world began to return to normal, or as normal as a world could be after a storm that shook the very threads of time. Lyra stayed with Elias, learning the ways of this timeline, discovering the small joys of life that had been absent in her original future. She learned to cook, to read old books, to walk in the woods without fear. Elias, too, changed. He was no longer just a man living in solitude. He had seen the fragility of the world, the weight of choices, and the strength of people who refused to yield. Together they explored the mountains, repaired the cabin, and built a small life that mattered not just to them, but to all of humanity. In the distance, the mountains stood silent, keeping secrets of a war that never happened, a future that was erased, and the humans who refused to be predicted. Lyra and Elias often looked at the horizon, knowing the universe had noticed what they had done. One act of kindness on a Christmas night had reshaped the fate of the world. The nightmare was over. The story of humanity continued, stronger, free, and unbroken. And for Lyra, who had once been a visitor from a lost future, this was no longer a second chance. It was a beginning. The sun rose higher, the snow sparkled, and the wind whispered across the mountains, carrying a single truth. Humans survived because they adapted, because they cared, because they chose to fight even when the odds were impossible. Elias looked at Lyra and said, "We don't know what comes next," she smiled. "We never do, that's the point." And in that moment both understood that the greatest power in the universe was not technology, not calculation, not control, it was human spirit, unpredictable, unstoppable, unbroken. The future was theirs, and humanity had finally earned its place among the stars.